Hi everyone, welcome back to I Have a Star Wars Story, and today we're talking about my Star Wars story, which is something that some people have been asking for, which is how I got into Star Wars. So let's go and jump right into it. I remember I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan for so long. I just wasn't. It was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan for so long. And then I remember Rebels came out. I was 5 or 6 whenever that came out. And I remember how excited everyone got whenever the trailer came out. And I was like, okay, this looks interesting. So I watched it. We would get up every Sunday whenever it would come out early before church, and we would watch the episode. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then Ahsoka got brought back, and I remember how excited everyone got. And then I remember whenever Kanan went blind, like whenever they went to Malachor, we see Maul. I remember whenever Kanan went blind, I was like, what? Because Kanan was my favorite character and still is to this day. And so I remember whenever that was like, wait, what? And then we go on to see Ahsoka gets left, like Ahsoka stays on Malachor, and whenever she finds out that Anakin is Vader, when she finds out Anakin's Vader, sorry, I'm tired, so, when she finds out Anakin's Vader, and so she's like, I won't leave you, not this time, and we're like, wait, what? And then we see that, and then not too long later, after Maul's passing and all that, we see Ezra go to the World Between Worlds and find Ahsoka, bring her back. And then whenever that happened, I was like, okay, Kanan's gonna get brought back, because he's like, okay, I can, like, we see that Ezra's like, okay, I can rescue Kanan. I'm like, okay, great. Kanan's gonna get brought back, everything's gonna be fine. And that didn't happen. I was like, because Ahsoka stopped him, I was like, and I understand why she stopped him, but whenever I was like, wait, what? And so after Rebels ended, I still wasn't, like, I loved Rebels. I had played the Battlefront games, old and new, but I still wasn't, like, a huge fan, if that makes sense. And I remember whenever Rogue One came out, not too much later after Rebels ended, it came out, I think a year or two after Rebels ended. And I remember whenever that came out, and I was just like, and I had seen the movies prior, but it wasn't something that piqued my interest. And so whenever Rogue One came out, I remember watching it and just being like, yep, okay. And still wasn't something that really piqued my interest. And then, of course, we had The Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order come out. And I remember I loved The Mandalorian. I didn't watch the first episode whenever it came out. I remember whenever The Mandalorian came out, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I, like so many other people, fell in love with The Mandalorian. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. I watched the second episode, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. And I remember going back through and watching the first episode, and then continuing on watching it with my family. And it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Had so much fun. Really looking forward to the Mandalorian movie coming out. It's gonna be so much fun. And then with Fallen Order, I was like, okay, I've played Battlefront, I've played the Lego games on the Wii, I wonder what this one's like. So I played it. And really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with it. And I remember just how much fun it was, and I had a lot of fun with it. It took me like 2 weeks to beat, but I had a lot of fun with it. And so then moving on, we had the announcement that Season 7 of The Clone Wars was being brought back. And I remember how excited everyone got, and I was still like, okay, And so I was like, whenever you have so many Star Wars lovers in the house, I had seen, like, bits of The Clone Wars, but never really watched it or got into it. I'd seen bits of it, but as I said, it wasn't, like, crazy. And so I remember whenever Season 7 came out, and I remember Echo got brought back, we get introduced to the Bad Batch, we see Ahsoka come back, and I remember being like, okay, okay, fun, nice. And then I remember a year later, the Bad Batch came out, and still, I was like, I watched here and there, but it wasn't, like, something that I watched thoroughly, and so I was like, okay, nice, cool, whatever. And then whenever Jedi Survivor came out in 2022 is whenever I really started getting into Star Wars. I really was like, okay, this is really cool. This is really fun. And so after I finished Jedi Survivor, I went through and watched Rebels, watched the Clone Wars, watched all the movies, and that's whenever I started to get into it. And then I remember I went through and I watched, like the movies. I watched everything in order, which was really fun. I really enjoyed that. But I had so much fun with it. And I remember over time, as I got more into Star Wars, I started talking about it more with my brother. And about a year and a half ago is whenever I really, really got into it, like really started to fall in love with it and started to have so much fun with it. And I remember because we had gotten the announcement that season 3 of The Bad Batch was happening. We'd gotten announced about The Acolyte. We'd gotten announced about, then not too much later, we'd been told, hey, we're gonna be getting Tales of the Empire. And so I remember being like, okay. And so I started getting more into it, started watching a lot more stuff, and just started having more fun with it. I started finding a community on YouTube and on like Facebook and Instagram. I started having a lot more fun with it. And I remember like being like, okay, this is super interesting. And I was like, okay, this is really fun. And then I remember being like, you know, it'd be really cool. And so I went ahead and I watched like The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars movie, the Clone Wars show, Rebels, the Clone Wars movie, the Clone Wars show. Like, I just remember I watched everything in order, like in like the order that it was supposed to be in, which was really fun, and I enjoyed that a lot. And I remember like something I remember watching a little bit was the 2D animated series, and I was like, okay, like it was fun because I liked the artwork of it. It was like fun. I was like, okay, this is fun. This is cool. But I mainly started getting into Star Wars about a year and a half ago, and then with season 3 of The Bad Batch came out, I had so much fun with it. I loved watching it. I would stay up till 2 a.m. whenever they would drop my time. And I just remember having so much fun and I loved it. And I had so much fun with it, and I would talk people's ears off with how much I would talk about Star Wars. So my brother finally was like, why don't you start a channel? I was like, okay, you know, that'd be really fun. So I started a Star Wars channel, and that was about, I think, 8 months ago, and I have loved it. I love talking to people about their Star Wars. I love communicating with, like, I have so much fun with it. I've gotten so many fun opportunities. The Star Wars community is awesome, and I'm so happy to be a part of it, and it's so much fun to me. And I'll never get over how much fun that I've had, and I love Star Wars, and it's so good. But yeah, that's my Star Wars story. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and as always, God bless. Bye, guys.